Well, happy Halloween. It is finally here, day 31. For me, the 100 films, which I surpassed. I actually finished with about 100, well, not about, but I did 153 films in 31 days. And I believe almost all of that, with the exception of one day, I had a YouTube hiccup. I recorded every day's viewings, but I think there is one day missing that I can't replace. But with the exception of that one day, you can see all 150 some odd films that I watched during the month if you choose to in the playlist. It's been a lot of fun. A little tired. After this day is over, I'm going to kind of switch gears to some other non-horror. I've got a bunch of interesting Arrow releases of non-horror stuff that I kind of want to get to and do some reviews, but I'll continue to make videos and things like that. It just may not be strictly horror. Anyway, let's get on with the last day's watching. I started out with this release of Satan's Blood. I like the black case on this. This is a batshit crazy Euro sleaze film from the 70s, made in Spain. It is about a group, well, not a group, but a couple that is into Satan worshiping. And they invite some former friends over and indoctrinate them, if you will, into their bizarre rituals, which include sex orgies and eating raw meat. Ending is interesting. It's a really interesting film, and it's a short watch, 70 minutes. I don't want to spoil the ending for you, but I liked it. I give this a 7 out of 10. Has no special features, but you can pick this up for, I want to say, €8. Wasn't much. Then I busted out my MGM Midnight Movie double feature, The Return of the Vampire, or Return of Dracula, rather, and The Vampire. Both these films were made in the 50s. The Return of the Vampire, of Dracula, Return of Dracula, the vampire in this case, or Dracula in this case, is Francis Lettier, who lived to be 100 years old, interestingly enough. And he made a fortune in other things other than acting. He made a fortune in real estate and built this incredible mansion and spread in California, somewhere in California. But he plays I guess, how do I describe it? Kind of a tamed down Luis Jordan, if you've seen the Count Dracula BBC film. There's no fangs in this. It's more of a psychological and implied vampirism. The ending is really cool. And when he falls into a bed of wooden stakes. I mean, that was about the goriest scene you're going to see in this. Interestingly enough, this film came out in 1958, right when Horror of Dracula with Christopher Lee came out. So Horror of Dracula just overshadowed this whole movie. This movie was pretty much forgotten because of that. Now, The Vampire is about David Beale, plays a scientist who drinks bat serum, bat blood, if you will. And the side effects, of course, he turns kind of into, he looks more like a zombie with bug eyes than he does a true vampire in that respect. But it's an interesting, fun little sci-fi 50s film. It's pretty tame stuff for today's audiences. No real special features. This is just an old Blu-ray, or not a Blu-ray, it's an old MGM DVD. Return of Dracula is out on Blu-ray, but the picture quality on this is excellent. There's no need to upgrade, in my opinion. Then I watched the classic, 9 out of 10. I don't give many 10s, but this came damn close. I think Halloween's a 10 out of 10, but Black Christmas, 1974, Bob Clark's masterpiece slasher film. This has everything you would want in a great horror movie, whether you're a slasher fan or a horror fan or a psychological fan. this has it all. It's creepy, it's atmospheric, it's tension building, and you've got some really pretty hellacious gore scenes. And I love this movie, as do a lot of people. It's no newsflash that this film has gotten huge accolades as one of the top horror movie and slasher movies of all time. This is a Canadian release, and I love it. It's got a slew of special features. I already have this release on DVD, but a nice little Rue Morgue booklet. The Home of Billy. And there's the... I love the voice. Apparently Bob Clark in the previous version of this I watched with the commentary talks about making all those funny Billy noises, and they just had a blast kind of screwing with their voices and making it's Billy or something. I butchered it, but I mean it had to be a blast mimicking Billy on the phone, and it had to be a lot of fun. Great movie. You got to have that in your collection. I think I've talked about this one before. This is Nightmares, the anthology film. I did watch this again. This is 4 stories, including in the 80s. It's made in the 83, I believe. It's got Lance Hendrickson as a priest who's kind of lost his faith. It's got an interesting kind of a slasher film, little slasher vignette at the start of it about a woman that's lives in Pacific Palisades, California, has to feed her cigarette addiction, even though there's a serial killer on the loose. Yeah, so this is a good, excellent anthology. I haven't heard a lot of people talk about it, but I definitely recommend this. This is a Scream Factory release. Yeah, I believe I showed this before, and there's the video game episode with Emilio Estevez, which I thought he did a great job. Then I watched Evil Dead, the remake, and I like it a lot. Yeah, I've gotten to where I know there's a lot of instant kind of hate for reboots, remakes. This is one of them. Of course, Rob Zombie's Halloween is another. And maybe I'm maybe I'm changing with age. I don't know. But when I'm watching these now, I don't really think about them in the context of the original film. This is just a different film for me. It's not a comedy. It's a straight up horror movie. I mean, obviously its storyline is similar, very similar, obviously, to the first film, because Sam Raimi and the same people were involved in making it, including Bruce Campbell. But it's a straight-up horror movie. It's not a comedy, so it is different. And I don't know that it disrespects the first film, or, I just don't have those kind of attachments to the original that would say, well, this is a piece of shit. I think it's a pretty damn good, scary movie. I enjoyed the hell out of it. So I think it's a 7 out of 10. I liked it a lot. And I'll probably check out the special features and commentaries. I did see this. Now, having said all that, I saw this when it originally came out in the theaters. And, again, that's 8 years ago. I felt differently about it when I first saw it in the theaters. I thought, well, this is just a rehash of the first film, and it's not as good. I mean, if you watch these reboots, whether it's Halloween or Evil Dead or Hills Have Eyes, if you watch it with in the back of your mind, well, this was how Carpenter did the first film, and this was the story, and I mean, you're not going to really give the reboot a chance anyway. And I think some of these films are unjustly criticized. So that's just my opinion on it. But I think this is a good standalone horror film. Now, I finished the night with what else? I mean, what else can you do on Halloween? Just start off with this. Halloween, 1978, John Carpenter's classic slasher film. I would say this and Black Christmas pretty much, for me, are the two preeminent psychological slasher genre films. I also have a preference for Psycho. That would probably be my, the top three. And all those are close calls, in my opinion, as to which one's the best. This is a 10 out of 10. I mean, it's a fantastic movie. And it's a movie that the score of the film is so iconic. I don't know that the film would have done even been remembered in history had it not been for the iconic musical score. I watched this film. Obviously, we've all seen this a zillion trillion times, and I've watched all the special features of the entire Halloween box. So I've covered all the grounds on this thing. And the one thing I point out about this film that I was thinking about as I watched it last night, just as an interesting tidbit, is the concept of time and space. And what I'm talking about is there's some scenes which are illogical. I mean, it's a horror movie, first off, so we're not going to penalize it. But what my point I'm trying to make is there's some time-space illogic in this film that works to its advantage. And what I mean is, so in the big last 30 minutes or 20-minute chase scene, starting with when Jamie Lee Curtis is in the kitchen by the outer door trying to move the rake, and Michael's busted in through the kitchen door. The space, I mean, it's a small kitchen, obviously, and the space between that door and where she stands with a large frame guy is probably three steps, maybe four, And I don't know why I was thinking this. I guess I've seen the movie so many times. You almost start to really break it down and analyze it. But I just, for some reason, it was a spontaneous thought. I'm thinking, when I saw this movie for the first time in the theater, when I was, I was in my early teens, these scenes that I'm talking about scared the shit out of me. So let me finish my thought. So when he breaks through the kitchen door, she doesn't go through the glass with her hand to move the rake until he's through the door, and pretty much through the door to the point where he's removing his hand from the hole in the door. So he's only got 3 more steps to make. And then the time it would take for her to break the glass, move the rake, and get the door jimmied open, he's there. He's on top of her. That's what I meant about time and space distance in this film. And I think they did it on purpose, because it's a tension-building thing. That when I first saw the film, it's like, fuck, she's going to get caught. There's no way she's getting out of this. And of course, she does get through it. But when you look back on that scene, it's like there's no real way she could have done that. But it works. It works and builds tension, even though there's a physical illogic to it. Same thing applies to when she's across the street at the house, and he's coming across the street. When she's trying to get the attention of the kid to open the door, she throws the flower pot up to the window. You see him; he's basically halfway across the street, maybe 200 feet. I don't know, but the time it takes for him to come down the steps, open the door, as slow as he's moving, based on some of the earlier shots of where Michael Myers is standing, that he'd been there on top of her. No way. Even if he's not trying to hurry, he's going to catch her. Now, other films, you wouldn't give those type of things a pass, I don't think. But the tension is built up so much in the film that those scenes actually work and add to the element of tension and suspense. So, I don't know if anybody else has actually noticed those things, but this is one of the rarity examples where time space illogic, which happens all the time in horror movies, works to great effect in this film. So then I finished the night with Halloween 2. Dick Warlock playing Michael Myers. And of course, this is set in a hospital, and it's a very empty hospital. It's the emptiest hospital I've ever seen that still stays open, other than, say, a bankrupt hospital. I would like to run a hospital with those nursing staffing ratios, because there was no staff. There was maybe one FTE walking around the whole damn hospital. But anyway, it's, I'm being picky. I love the movie, and it's on its own right. It's an 8 out of 10 as well, and a great sequel, tremendous follow up, and it stands on its own merits. And the music on it, I like the fact that I like the music. In some respects, I like this music better than the original. But we've all seen this movie, so I don't really need to go into it too much. But I thought it was an excellent sequel, and these two films combined are probably two of the greatest franchise movies in the top 3, of all time. Okay, well, I appreciate everyone that's watched these videos and stayed with me through 31 days. I hope you have a great Halloween, and I hope you have a great turkey month as we start working towards Turkey Week, Thanksgiving. I'm going to still be doing videos. I'm just going to move away. I'll probably always be watching horror, because that's my main thing, but I'm going to be doing some other stuff and doing some reviews on some other things as well. So look forward to those videos, and I appreciate you watching. Thank you.